Hey there, juniors. This is Mrs. Henry. I am coming to you on behalf of the Junior English Teacher team to discuss one of our next big projects. So we're about ready to read Flowers for Algernon, which is a short story by Daniel Keyes. And one of the assignments that we're going to have you work on throughout the course of reading the text is something called the Reader Response Journal. And that's what you have here right in front of you. You have this in each of your individual teachers' classes for today's assignment. You should be able to click on a link that has this document available to you. So what I'd like to do is look at this third paragraph down where it says the thinking behind this assignment. So paragraph 3, it says, when you read something, your interpretation is influenced by your experience. In the literary world, this is known as reader response theory. As you read, you react to the text with thoughts and feelings because of the connections that you make to your life. These reactions are not incorrect. In fact, they deserve to be shared, acknowledged, and validated. So the concept of reader response theory is that whenever you listen to a song or read a poem or a short story or a book, the concept is that you may have a different interpretation of what its meaning is because you bring to the reading a unique set of experiences, life experiences that impact the way you interpret a work. So the Reader Response Journal is just one way for us to see your interactions with the text. So it says, this assignment is a way for you to chronicle your interaction with the text. Your journal should record your reactions, and you will submit these entries to Google Classroom via Google Doc. Through your responses, I should be able to gain insight about you and your connections to what you have read. Now, there are 4 categories for the type of responses that you will make in the Reader Response Journal. They will be either notice, and here is a list of a bunch of different jumping off points for when you're looking at noticing something in a work. Do you notice any changes in the personality of the main character or the antagonist? Do you notice any emphasis on an object or a minor character? So are there symbols present? Any repeating patterns? Is there a title or an epigraph or a subtitle that is recurring or is new that is significant? So I'm not going to read all of those to you, but those are all within that under the notice category. Those are all things that you can use as ways to start your writing if you're doing a notice category reader response journal. And then there's a question one. So do you question any of the decisions that a character has made? Do you wonder what a certain passage in the book might mean? Do you question whether the author realistically presented a certain part of the book? Do you question if something that happened in the author's life might have influenced the writing of this novel, and so on? And these are not questions that you're limited to. These are just some that you could consider. The third category for the type of reader response journals that you'll be asked to do is feel. So does any part of this book make you feel scared, annoyed, or any type of emotion? Which part and why? Do you feel differently about a character or situation in the novel now as compared to maybe how you perhaps perceived that character before? And if so, why have your thoughts and feelings changed? And so on. There are some more questions as well. In the feel category, it's also important for you to notice things like literary devices. So I'm sure you're familiar with the main ones, such as like comparisons, like similes and metaphors, or repetition, or contrasts, hyperbole, and a variety of others. We'll probably provide you with a list of main ones to kind of jog your memory. But in the feel category of the type of response for a reader response journal, you will make connections to literary techniques. And then there's the relate one. Does anything in this book remind you of something from your own experience? Something maybe you've watched, a song that you've heard, maybe a news story that you've read? Talk about that relationship and that connection. How do you think that recollection or personal experience shapes your interpretation of the text? So here's an example. And this is the type of response that you're going to have in the blank one. This is exactly the Google Doc that you're going to be typing into. So for this one, you'll put your name, and then it will be reading chunk 1. And for this chunk 1, what we're going to ask you to do is either to notice, or question. That's the category. And what you're going to do is inside of this text box, you're going to write a 200 to 250 word response that addresses some of these categories. For this first one, it's going to be either notice or it's going to be question. So you're going to read chunk 1. You're going to read chunk 1, and you're going to either notice characteristics, unique things about, and there's a lot to notice, or you're going to ask questions. There are also several questions that may pop in your mind as you read these first couple pages. So after you read, you will go to the template for the blank reader response journal, and you're going to compose your thoughts. And you most certainly can look back at this assignment to give you some of these jumping off questions to think about what you possibly can respond to. Now, let me give you an example. So you all should have read Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird last year or the year before. And I chose this one as an example of relate. So this particular scene from To Kill a Mockingbird is when Walter pours molasses syrup on his entire plate of food while he's a guest at Scout's house eating food with the whole family. So here's what I wrote. When Walter pours the molasses syrup on his entire plate of food and Scout outwardly shows her curiosity and amazement, I thought about my paternal grandpa. I remember watching him eat at Thanksgivings, Easters, and other Sunday family meals together and being surprised, a lot like Scout was, about his eating habits. Come to think of it, I was around the same age. The fact that our reactions were similar and we were about the same age makes me wonder at what age we stop showing our emotions so readily to others. When do we begin editing and suppressing our thoughts? Because kids, we don't conceal what we're thinking. We just blurt out what we're thinking. My grandpa would eat whatever was put in front of him, literally. It didn't matter if he liked it personally or not. It also didn't matter if he was hungry. If food was in front of him, he would eat it. Every morsel. He also ate super fast. When I was in middle school, my dad finally explained why Grandpa did this. He was a POW in a concentration camp in Europe during World War II and had almost died of starvation. His lack of food 4 decades earlier had forever changed the way he felt about and responded to food. Walter's extreme poverty impacts his behavior in this scene. He does without food, let alone extras like sweet things. When put in front of him, he can't control himself, just like Grandpa. At this point, I wonder how big a part of the storyline Walter Cunningham is going to be. I can already tell that class issues are going to be a part of this book, especially from what you can see in Miss Caroline's class. So within this here, I did a couple of things. I'm making a prediction right here. Earlier, I posed the question, I wonder at what age we stop saying out loud what we are thinking. And I make a connection to my grandpa. And then I share about how I learned the reason why my grandpa would just eat everything in sight, whether he was hungry or liked the food or not. And then I made a connection between my grandpa and how Walter responded to food. So this is the type of entry that you're going to make on the blank reader response journal. You'll type it directly into this text box. Okay, so I have you need to do a word count. Let me first go over. So we have this is the rubric. So the categories on the left here, we're looking for your content. Do you have good ideas? Do you develop them? Is your response anchored in one of the 4 categories? Are you noticing, questioning, feeling, or relating? Conventions, are you paying attention to capitalization and punctuation, right? Mechanics and usage. Did you proofread and edit your work? Are you capitalizing your eyes and writing complete sentences and writing in complete paragraphs? Connection, do you make meaningful connections to the reading? Do you refer to specific text support when making those connections? And then compliance, are your entries at least 200 to 250 words? And are they about 2 to 3 paragraphs in length? Those basically mean the same thing. So we have these 3 categories. We have not yet, which means that you have not yet met those standards. You are meeting them. If you get 5 to 8 points for content if you're meeting them, or if you're exceeding them, meaning you're doing abundantly well in the content category, you get 9 to 10 points for that category. Conventions, this is proofreading and editing. If you are not yet meeting that, you'll get 0 to 4 points, meaning any range within that you either clearly didn't proofread, you're not writing incomplete sentences, you're not capitalizing your words. If you are meeting it, you'll get 5 to 8 points because you very obviously are doing a pretty good job with proofreading. There are a few mistakes, but they don't impact the understanding of what we're reading. If you're exceeding it, that means you're doing abundantly well. You very obviously proofread it. You have great sentence structure. You did a really good job developing your paragraphs and so on. And then on through. So those are the point values for a total of 40 points. Now, if you want to know how to be able to check your word count, all you have to do is you highlight the portion of the text and then that you want to check the word count for. Then you go to Tools and you go to Word Count. After you click on Word Count, it's going to tell you how many words are in the highlighted portion. So this that I highlighted is 29 words of the total 69 words that are in the whole document. We do not want you to count the words that are a part of the actual document itself. So you need to highlight only the portion of the paragraphs that you have written, and then you need to tell us the word count for that. Okay, so I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, ask your teacher. We're here to help you. And happy reading and happy writing.